Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner.
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into the latest NBA Lockdown podcast. I am Doug Kezirian. We'll be joined shortly by Amin, Elhassan, and Jeff Goodman. We're going to talk about Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. A couple runs by each team, close game, one possession in the final seconds, but the home team prevails, and the MVP's daughter steals the spotlight a little later. Also, we'll look ahead to the Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That's tonight. LeBron and the Cavs in Atlanta to face the Hawks. And we'll also talk about last night's draft lottery. Some teams happy, some teams not so much. And Jeff Goodman will obviously break down and give us some insight in terms of where guys might be headed to play their NBA careers. But first, we open with the game at Oracle last night, guys. You know, this is a team, Houston sort of surprised a lot of us, up by 16 in the first half. Dwight Howard, though, nicked up, and I think that really enabled Golden State's run.
Man, I wouldn't even give it. I won't even give it that much. I don't think it was Dwight Howard being in or being out. I think it was Golden State doing what Golden State does. Every game, I've watched them play this season, there comes a time where they just shut you down defensively for a stretch of time, and that's the knockout blow right there. And last night it happened twice. It happened once at the end of the half and once in the fourth quarter. And if you look at the margin for the rest of the game, they were actually outscored by 26 points by the Rockets outside of those two runs. But it just so happens those two runs added up to about 30 points. And there it is. That's Golden State basketball. They have an ability to turn the key and turn on this defensive monster that can stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do.
Well, they've got two really good defensive players. You know, you got Clay, who didn't shoot it well, and Draymond, who nobody thought was going to be this good defensively. So you've got that, and you've got reliable players on Golden State. That's the difference is with Houston. They're going to have their night, but do you trust Houston's players? Other than James Harden, there's not one guy on this team I trust day in and day out. To be honest, Trevor Ariza is probably the guy you trust second after Harden.
I totally agree. I just think when you have to go to the bench and Harden's there, not on the court, you just needed a guy like Dwight Howard. And I'm not the biggest Dwight Howard guy. I just think he could have sort of slowed the pace, slowed things down, just kind of like maybe even just catch a foul and go to the line, and then Houston wouldn't be in such a disarray. I did NBA Tonight last night, and the guys called it a rat race, and really that's what happened. I agree. The Warriors have done this all season, but it was just in a blink of an eye that lead was gone. I believe they closed on a 25-6 run, and I just think the Rockets sort of weather that storm, and God forbid Kevin McHale ever call a timeout, but I just think they could have benefited from just some sort of, and to use your word, reliable guy in the post to just kind of break up this flurry of points.
Yeah, they just don't have that. I mean, that's the problem. When Dwight Howard's out of the game, they don't have another guy you can throw it down to in the post. I mean, Terrence Jones is, again, he's erratic. He struggled in game one. Jason Terry's great coming off the bench is a 12, 15-minute-a-game guy in the backcourt. But if you've got to rely on guys like that and Josh Smith, you're in trouble. Where Golden State, listen, you know, Bogut didn't do anything. They haven't gotten anything out of Bogut or David Lee consistently all year. They're still very good. They've got enough options up front. You know, Bogut, Lee, Festus Ezeli. Look at Sean Livingston. I mean, he might have been the second best player on the court last night. You know, and from what he's come back from, the length that he gives you on both ends, I think is tough for Houston to deal with.
Yeah, Livingston 14 points in the second quarter, essentially sparking that run. Golden State led by 3, and you think, all right, order's restored. But Houston rallied back. This game was tied 97-97. Dwight essentially didn't play the fourth quarter. It was about half a minute that he played. And Rockets were right there in it. They could have had every opportunity to roll over, but they did. Here's Kevin McHale on playing the fourth quarter without Dwight, something they should be familiar with.
We've played over half the season without Dwight. There's no excuses. I mean, that's not a – we got to play. There's balls there to be had. There's rebounds there to be had. There's baskets there to be had. There's layups there to be made. We got to do that. Dwight didn't prohibit us from we were 26 for 51 at the rim. We got there steady and just we didn't finish.
I think it happens when there's just so many possessions in a game. I don't have the stats in front of me. Maybe there wasn't. But it just felt like there was high volume of possessions. And what do we hear, whether it be March Madness or the NBA playoffs? In the postseason, every possession matters. And I thought the Warriors were a little bit more efficient on their offensive possessions than the Rockets were when they had the ball. And give credit to the defense here and there. But I just think it was a couple possessions here and there that the Rockets were either throwing the ball out of bounds or just being careless with the ball. And it's probably, Jeff, come back to your point again, so they just don't have as many reliable players.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that just going to be the fact that Golden State has guys that you can count on that you know are going to take either higher percentage shots, or in Steph's case, it doesn't matter whether it's a high percentage shot or a low percentage shot. He can make no matter what you give him. So he's unguardable. You know, to me, Harden and Steph were kind of the equalizers to some extent. And then after that, if you're looking at their rosters, Golden State, to me, is clearly superior.
Well, I'll go a bit further. I think if you look at the Rockets' offense, outside of James Harden, it's really stagnant. Let's watch James do what he do, and if they help, everybody get ready. But if they don't help, James is going to take this shot, and it works. It's effective. But like you said, Jeff, if they help, then you're relying on those other guys to be able to do something with it, do the right thing. And you know, you're relying on Corey Brewer and Josh Smith threes, and you're relying on Trevor Ariza putting the ball on the floor and making the right decision going to the hole. And that's a lot of uncertainty. It might go in. It might work. Might not. I think Golden State has more of an offense. It's not let's just watch Steph. They have a lot of back screen actions, a lot of moving off the ball. How many did Steph Curry get a layup last night because he just cut off a back screen? Like, that's not watching him dance with the ball, as pretty as that may seem. That's them running an offense.
You know what they have?
A big difference.
You know what Golden State has?
What's that?
They have high IQ players. That's the difference. Sir. They have high IQ players. Houston does not.
On both ends, by the way.
We're taping this before noon on Wednesday, so right as of now, we have not heard the results of Dwight Howard's MRI. That will obviously have a huge impact on Thursday's game, too. But, guys, I'll come back to this. I mentioned it before. The betting line in Vegas was so outrageous. The Warriors were minus 1,100 to win this series. That means you have to risk 1,100 to win 100. They were 10-point favorites in Game 1, which is what they were against the Pelicans. That's 2 rounds ago. So here they are in the Western Conference Finals, and they're laying 10 in Game 1, and they're just humongous favorites in the series because thinks the Rockets can win 4 out of 7. Now they have to win 4 out of 6. This is just, I think, this is as far as the Rockets go. They're just, Golden State's a bad matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and you know, I mean, I picked Warriors in 5, and I felt bad. I said maybe I'm giving the Rockets too much credit. You know, it is that clear cut of a mismatch. You know, I think we talked about this last week, Doug. The 15 points that they outscored the Rockets by during the regular season. That's the biggest margin of victory ever between two conference finalists two teams meeting in the conference finals. I mean, this is not a case where, you know, a lot of people point to last year where Oklahoma City killed the Spurs during the regular season, and the Spurs, this ain't that right now. I mean, you talk about, you know, going back to what Jeff said about IQ, think about the play so the Rockets switched a lot on the pick and rolls on Steph Curry. And so there's a play where Steph gets a switch, he drops it into the post, and then he fades to the far corner. And Josh Smith, for whatever reason, just stops midway through the paint and starts to kind of semi-help on the Draymond Green post-up. Of course, Bogut screens quickly. They find Steph on the corner, and he hits that 3. How many times did we see Steph Curry? By the way, Forget the shots that he made where he was wide open. How many times did he did not get the ball? They'd run in transition. And I was watching the game with my parents, and I say, Steph. And I say, what are you yelling about? I say, he's wide open, and nobody has a clue where he is. It's crazy how many times they lost him in that game, and I think that's the difference right there. If you're at this level, if you hope to guard, to defend and to defeat the Golden State Warriors, you got to recognize this dude right here, the MVP, can't get wide open shots. He's got to beat you kind of like Harden was trying to beat the Warriors over outstretched arms, over contested shots, over defended plays. And Curry really didn't see that on much of the night.
This game, again, was tied 97-all, but Golden State with one of its patent runs. You said, Amin, they've done it all year. 11-0 run late in the fourth, and that's what sealed the game. Game 2 on ESPN, 9 Eastern on Thursday. We'll wait to hear what Dwight Howard's health status is later on Wednesday. Let's move it forward, though, to the lottery also last night, which is what I was more interested in as a Laker fan. It's the only time I wanted the Lakers to win all season.
Hashtag hate hard.
Look, I'm a big-time conspiracy theorist in sports, not with the lottery, but with other things. People have to realize it's online on YouTube. They post the whole thing. The reason they unveil them from 14 to 1, because that's better TV, but they have to do it behind closed doors from 1 to 14 because of the math. So basically there are 1,000 combination of lotto balls. The team with the worst record, T-Wolves in this year's case, gets 250 of them, and it goes in descending order. So the T-Wolves actually got, I think, the third pick as well as the first. Now, obviously, if there's a repeat, then they throw out that number and keep going until it works mathematically. But it is not fixed. People who think it is need to chill out.
Yeah, I'm so sure of it now that your Lakers got the second pick, If they had gotten the 11th, or whatever, 7th pick, then you'd be saying, this whole thing, we need an investigation. You're good right now.
Look, it's online. They have it all there for when you go watch. And it was a glorious day in Laker Nation. It is so huge. Because they also have Jordan Clarkson from last year, as well as Julius Randle. So they basically get 3 lottery picks in a 2-year span to build this franchise.
Wow. Building up Jordan Clarkson there.
Oh, yeah. As long as it's not Rondo.
Are you excited to welcome Jahlil Okafor to L.A.?
I'm a little worried about his defense and free throw shooting, but, yeah, there's worse problems to have when you come out of the lottery. But, Jeff, talk to us about this. How big are Karl Anthony Towns' demands to play in L.A., and are we sure that the T-Wolves want Towns?
We're not sure the T-Wolves want Towns, but certainly from everything I've gotten, almost every team out there wants Karl Anthony Towns ahead of Okafor. Again, could flip Saunders. See, I just don't know, again, with Peck making as much money as he's making, you can't really move him. You got to play him if he's healthy.
They tried to last year.
Yeah, they just can't. It was a bad contract they gave him. And now you're back to potentially, if you draft Okafor, having 2 below-the-rim big guys, kind of like you have with Kevin Love and Peck, and it just doesn't work. Plus the fact that I just think Karl Anthony Towns is the better player. I think they're both going to be terrific. But Towns, to me, can impact on both ends of the court. And if you throw, Towns out there with Wiggins and their athleticism, I mean, that's the other part of this you got to look at is he fits. Towns can run with him. Okafor can run, but not like Towns. And the length, you got some good young players. Imagine Rubio feeding it to Towns. He'll get easy baskets, which he really did not get much last year at Kentucky. He had to work for it. Karl Anthony Towns can do so much more away from the basket than anybody realizes. He did what Calipari asked him and needed him to do last year, which was score in the post, because he didn't have anybody else who could do it. But Towns can step out. He can make shots. He's a skilled 4 at the end of the day. I mean, he'll be able to play both the 4 and the 5 in the league these days. But I think Towns goes number 1. I think your Lakers get Okafor at 2. And, you got Randall, Okafor, Kobe. You know, like it's a team that will make the playoffs next year. I'd be shocked if they didn't. Shocked if they stay healthy.
In the West?
man.
In the West? In the West?
I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do. I think they're going to
Make the playoffs where? When?
I think they're going to. I think they'll slip in.
What year?
I really do.
No, what year? What year, Jeff? What year? Are we talking
Next year.
flying
Next
cars, Marty
year.
McFly? We can frame this one. Hang it up on my mantle. There is absolutely 0% chance the Lakers, unless a massive flu sweeps across the Western Conference, where Steph Curry and Anthony Davis and James Harden and all these guys are bedridden for an entire season. There is absolutely no way the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, not with those names you just named. Now, if they go out and trade for Durant in the offseason,
well, they're going to have to
now
get
we can have a conversation.
They're going to have to get somebody else. I'm not saying they're done here. I'm not saying the Lakers are done
Give me a caliber. Give me a caliber of somebody else.
I mean, again, you know, and I'm not a
Danny Green or somebody else?
They need a point guard.
Like a Danny Green?
They got to get a point guard.
Okay, so a point guard.
What's wrong with Jordan
So
Clarkson?
you've got these are the point guards. These are the point guards on the market there. You know you're not serious.
Clarkson's a good backup. He's a good backup.
I think he's a
Clarkson's
future
gonna be
starter.
great.
I don't think there's any chance the Lakers make the playoffs next year because I don't think there's any chance Kobe stays relatively healthy, and they're just too
Again,
young.
that's what I'm saying.
Even if he did,
listen.
let's not make that home. Let's not make that. Like, guys, we got to stop with this. Kobe 100% healthy ain't that good anymore. We saw him when he was healthy. He wasn't that good. He shoots 100 times. He makes like 5 of those shots. He complains.
But he doesn't have to with Okafor and Randall.
He doesn't know any other way. He doesn't know how to be Paul Pierce. He can only be Kobe.
Though?
And the problem with Kobe is those days are gone.
Yeah, I think Randall's going to have a lot of adjustment. I mean, the Lakers had some decent, there were games where Jordan Hill played well that, Randall will never play next year. I don't know. The Lakers in the
Randall's
West are so
much
far
better. Randall's so much better than Jordan Hill.
I'm just saying the Lakers have no chance of making the playoffs next year.
See, I think they'll be right. I think they'll be right there in the 8th spot. I'm not saying they're going to be 4th
Here's my
or
thing,
5th.
Jeff, so we can count them out right now. Golden State's going to be there next year. Houston's going to be there next year. The Clippers are going to be there next year. The Spurs are going to be there next year. Who am I missing? Portland? Okay, Portland is a question mark because they've got some changes that might happen. So
Dallas?
throw them in
What about
question
Dallas?
mark pile.
Dallas not good?
We can throw Dallas in the question mark pile. No problem.
Yeah.
The Pelicans, we can count on, right? And then
you
who am I
can't.
missing?
You're saying you're etching the Pelicans in.
I'm etching the Pelicans, not in the playoffs, but way above the Lakers. I can do that. I can say they're better than the Lakers as far as playoff odds. And then you could throw in the Suns are better than the Lakers right now. You could throw in the Jazz are way better.
Book the Jazz.
That was the Jazz being in the playoffs. Yeah.
Thunder.
I'll put the Jazz in the playoffs for sure. The Thunder definitely going to be in the playoffs.
The Thunder, agreed.
So that's 3. I just gave you 2 question marks that were in, and I just gave you 3 teams that are way above the Lakers.
I'm not saying they're going to finish 4th or
they're
5th.
not going to be 8th.
They're going to get in.
They're not going to be 9th. They're not going to be 10th. Sacramento will drop their ass. I'll say it right now. Sacramento will have more. Sacramento will have more wins.
You are out of your mind.
Sac will have more wins. Sac will have more wins than LA. Book it, frame it, send it to Vivek, send it to Jimmy Buzz. The Kings will have more. I'm not saying the Kings are going to make the playoffs. I'm saying the Kings will have more wins than the Lakers if Kobe plays 82, if Kobe plays 82 seconds. It does not matter. That team is awful. That team, unless you tell me they're getting LaMarcus Aldridge or a healthy Kevin Love or some other blockbuster level acquisition.
They're going to get somebody.
Rondo doesn't count.
They're going to get somebody
Danny Green doesn't count.
No, I'm not saying Danny Green. Danny Green's not
How
good.
good is good? How good is good?
An upper tier guy. They're going to get an upper tier guy.
A guy, let me put it this way, better or worse than Aldridge?
Well, Aldridge is one of the best. He's one of the best 10 players in the game.
So worse than all. I'm just trying to narrow
Kevin Love
the
is
zone
worse. Kevin Love is worse, but he still completely altered that team. Agreed?
So you're saying they'll get a Kevin Love caliber player? I'd still call Kevin Love one of the top power forwards in the game. So if you're telling me they're going to get him, that's a blockbuster deal to me. That is a blockbuster deal.
He's not as good as Aldridge. He's not as good as LaMarcus, but I agree.
But when you're saying they're going to get a good player, but not necessarily like a superstar player, I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, the caliber of a Goran Dragic, maybe not him, but that caliber player?
If they get somebody of the caliber of anywhere from Dragic to Love, and you add Randall and Okafor to Kobe, a healthy Kobe, and again, I don't mean 82 games, I mean 70 games, I think the Lakers are right there for the it spot. I do.
No chance. No chance.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Well, you know what the funny thing was with Jeff, when you were naming, when you said Clarkson with Okafor and Randall and Kobe, I was waiting for Josh to drop the. Oh, you didn't say. Okay, well, when you named those names and you said Kobe, I was waiting for Josh to drop the who. Because this is. This is the thing. I've been here 3 years now.
Byron Scott looked lost last year with this team. Like, there's so many gaping holes on this team. I don't think Okafor and Randall and maybe a free agent Phil. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. If they're gonna, they're gonna screw this all up by signing Rondo, so it doesn't matter.
If they do that, bets are off. I changed my whole tune if they sign Rondo. They're gonna get a lottery pick again if they sign Rondo. It's over.
Oh man.
Okay, and it's gonna go to the Sixers, by the way.
I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for Rondo. I'm rooting for the Rondo and Kobe experiment. I'm gonna have my popcorn ready
and Kevin Love
and a little beverage. No. Kevin Love, to see him go from one miserable situation to another miserable situation to a third miserable situation. That would be pretty funny.
So let's move on the draft. I think the Sixers catch a break, and by getting the third pick, they didn't want to have to draft a big man. They didn't want to have to get that pressure because they have Noel, they have Joel Embiid. I think they're going to get the best wingman in the draft, whether it's Justice Winslow or D'Angelo Russell.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this one. Do you think they go wing or do you think they go guard? And if they go guard, do they go Russell or do they go Moutier?
I think they go Russell. And I'm putting together a mock draft right now of what I would do and talking to NBA guys, talking to a half dozen NBA guys and getting their thoughts on my picks. I would go Moutier if I was Philly. I think they'll go Russell. I just think Sam Hinkie will go with what he knows. The measurable numbers are really impressive with Russell in terms of just kind of – he does everything well. He's not a great athlete. He knows how to play. I think Moutier would really fit in with Nerlens, with Embiid. Moutier's just – he's the new age point guard. He's big, strong, athletic. He's not a great shooter. He'll get better. He put up crazy numbers in China against guys that look like me. And run like me and jump like me. So I throw those out the window. But I talked to a bunch of people who played with and against Moutier. You know, Will Bynum, Chris Daniels played with him. Jeff Adrian was with him for a little while. And they all say the kid's, he works hard. He does work hard. And I think Moutier's a guy, again, that has a higher upside than D'Angelo Russell. I would go with him if I was Sam Hinkie. But I think Hinkie right now, if you put a gun to his head, he'd take D'Angelo Russell over Moutier.
How much does the previous performances / struggles of Ohio State guys affect Russell? Evan Turner,
Zero.
Stellinger.
Zero.
Okay.
No, absolutely zero. D'Angelo Russell has such a great feel for the game. You know, I talked to him, and he was a guy, he said a couple of years ago, nobody thought he could really play the point. He couldn't handle pressure with the ball in his hands. And really, last year, he started just kind of – Thad might have just gave him the ball. And nobody thought he would. Everybody thought Shannon Scott was going to be the point guard. And instead, he just gave D'Angelo Russell the keys and just said, you're our guy because we got nobody else who can score. And Russell did absolutely everything for Ohio State for a very, very mediocre Ohio State team talent-wise. Young – they didn't have a lot of weapons. Everybody knew Russell was going to be the guy, midway through the season in league play, and they still couldn't really stop him. So Russell's got great basketball IQ, can score, gets to the basket. Not a great shooter, but better than Moutier. But again, I like them both. I think Moutier, you have the potential to swing and hit a major league home run where I think Russell can be a top 10-ish point guard in the league.
I'm on the fence between those two guys, between Russell and Moutier.
Yeah.
I think like you, Jeff. I just love. He's so smooth, and I think he can step in right away and make that team better. But I look at Moutier as kind of like the physical project and say, boy, if he can put it together, if he can, he doesn't have to be great at shooting, just get good enough. Oh, he could be incredible.
I mean, I saw him 2 summers ago in a game hit like 6 threes. So he's capable. He's just streaky right now. It's not like his shot's broke. It's not. He's just streaky. And what's the one aspect that every NBA guy says you can improve? Shooting.
Shooting. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I go back to my example I always use is Darrell Wright. When I saw him back in high school and prep school, he was a terrible shooter. Not bad, terrible. And he turned into one of the best shooters when he was healthy in the NBA. I think he even led the league maybe in three-point percentage a few years back. So you can get better. I mean, Josh Smith has nights. He's a terrible shooter.
Let's stay away from Josh Smith.
Yeah, let's not go down that.
You had me at Darrell Wright. You had me at Darrell Wright. I was with you there.
All right. But obviously, when there are winners, there are losers. And so the Lakers won the odds, so to speak. The Knicks did not. They had second-best odds. It did not go according to the odds, and they fell to number 4. Now, it's worth mentioning this is a team that won 2 of its final 3 games and had the second worst odds where they could have had the worst odds.
It's not worth mentioning.
And, you know, look, I yell about this all the time. I'm a big believer in tanking until the rules are changed. I go back to how the Colts almost won a game that could have cost them the top pick the year of the Andrew Luck draft. So it's ridiculous that they even win these games. Now, I know that the Knicks have an amazing front line and don't want to break up Aldridge, Amundsen, and Smith, but they can't get one of the big men now. So what do you do now if you're the Knicks and you have the 4th pick? Do you just wait to see who falls to you in terms of the Russell Moutier?
Well, let me jump on
that's what
this.
you have
Let me
to
jump
do.
on this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I got to point out. Look, you can't tell me it was one of those 2 combinations that they were missing. Those are the ones they got paid. Like, we'll never know. But I don't feel like that's the way it works, right? It's not that those 2 that they missed out on, those 2 combinations, or however, I guess what's the difference in combinations between number 1 and 2? It's from 250 to
20%,
190,
15, I think. Yeah.
To 19. So yeah, it's 60 combinations.
Yeah, so 60 combinations. I just the thought that it was one of those 60 that did it.
But what did you gain? What did you gain from winning those 2 games?
You're a bad tanker.
I mean,
seriously.
I don't know. I don't know what you. But what can you do if they're winning the game? What do you do? It's not like they can go in with their scrubs. Their scrubs are already in. Their scrubs are beating the Hawks. There's nothing more you can do. It's like at that point we got to be mad at the Hawks. You can't be mad at the Knicks anymore, unless you're gonna say, hey, Derek Fisher is gonna suit up him and Kurt Rambis. They're gonna come play the 4th quarter.
Yeah,
There's nothing more you can do.
You run Amundsen at the point guard.
But I think while doom and gloom is falling over New York City right now, I think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise, right? Because if you got to pick between, or not even pick, if you just got to wait between who falls between Moutier and Russell, dude, there's a lot worse things that I can imagine, right? In the draft happening to you, that's a pretty good consolation prize to fall to. And especially when there are a lot of people who feel like the NBA is going away from having dominant big men. I mean, think about this. What if the Knicks have gotten 2 and they got an Okafor, and then they're still awful defensively, and, they're still not figuring out a way to get him the ball and get better. I mean, there's a good chance they could have gotten Okafor at 2 and not gotten better at all. And here you got a chance to either get Moutier or Russell. I think that's good for them. That'll be good for them because point guard is a desperate area of need.
Does Justice Winslow fall into the mix here, or even Willie Cauley?
Jeff, what do you think?
I don't think so. I think the one guy who could crack the top four, from talking to NBA guys, is the 19-year-old, the foreign kid, Kristaps Porzingis. He's the guy. He played in Spain this year. He's from Latvia. Really super skilled. Every bit is 7'1", maybe even 7'2". The high end is obviously Dirk. The low end probably Bargnani. And really, really skilled. And he's the guy that I think if anybody's going to crack the top four, and I'm not sure anybody is, because again, I think the Knicks have a need for everything, right? I mean, what don't the Knicks need? They need everything other than a ball stopping forward who doesn't defend. They need everything.
Hashtag
hate
hard.
Well, they don't need an offensive system because the triangle is fantastic.
What about an old out-of-touch general manager or the entitled owner who just doesn't get it?
Hashtag hate hard.
A coach who's in over his head. I don't think they need any of those either. I think those are all covered as well.
I wonder if Phil Jackson's even heard of Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh man.
Who?
I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and we can talk about it another time because I'll do more research so I can defend it from all the venom. I actually don't think Phil Jackson's done that bad of a job. All the moves are defensible at the time. And we don't need to open this can of worms, but the moves were not that bad, dude. They were not. I think the hiring of Derek Fisher is not good. But all those moves, the personnel moves and stuff, are not that horrendous.
Mr. Kezirian.
Because you start from scratch now?
You traded Shumpert and J.R. Smith when you already know you're going to tank. It's not like you traded them last summer when they thought they were in the playoff. There's just so many things you can defend. And just because guys get hurt or things don't work out, that's revisionist history. I actually don't think he's been that awful, but we could defend that another time. Hey, we'll talk about it another time. I will own up to this. I will own up to it. I'm not going to back down from it. But I just don't think he does. I don't think all the criticism is justified.
Here's my thing, and I will allow you to go do your research and then come back with enough ammunition to defend this indefensible point. But I will leave you with this. I wrote an article yesterday about getting rid of the draft. And one of the main reasons for it is exactly this. It's the idea that Phil Jackson can mess up, can say, we're going to make the playoffs, mess up, and then at the end of the year say, I meant to do that. See, the way we have the system right now, it allows Phil Jackson to get, I meant to do it, of course, we're going to get a high pick now. That's the biggest issue with the NBA right now, is that there is no clear definition between I'm an awful GM and I'm a brilliant GM playing the odds. There is no difference between that. Sam Hinkie and Phil Jackson, they are both equal and the same in our league right now. Sam Hinkie got 3 and Phil Jackson got 4, but the way they arrived at those points were completely, vastly different paths. And I'm not the biggest Sam Hinkie fan, or I never have the pom-poms out. I've criticized a lot of things Philadelphia has done, but at least I can say with certainty on November 1st, whenever the first day of the season was, they had a plan, and they made their plan. And Phil Jackson had a plan, and his plan was terrible. I'm just saying that Phil Jackson had a plan that was completely different from this, but he arrived at the same point, so now he can end it at the end of the play and say, oh, yeah, that was the plan. That's why we traded J.R. Smith and, Iman Shumpert, because we knew we were trying to – No. You started training camp with a different mindset. But, again, we will table that discussion for another day.
I totally agree. And if he got fleeced on a trade last summer for Shumpert and Smith, I'd say, yeah, all the criticism is right. He just made the decision mid-season. He's like, okay, we're going to suck. Melo's hurt, so, let's do this, this, and this. And could he have done a little better on a couple moves? Of course. But my point is it's not as – it's just classic, like when you want something – you want the narrative to work, you look for reasons to back it up, whereas if you take a step away and just assess it in a vacuum, it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
Doug, I'm telling you it is just as bad because they have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
We'll see. We can talk about it another time. I'm happy to do that. But let's move forward. Keep with the lottery theme. Cavs have 2 number 1 overalls. They'll be on the court tonight against Atlanta in the Eastern Conference Finals. How much will health be a factor for Cleveland? We'll discuss that in 1 minute on the NBA LockDown podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories.
Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Back with you on the NBA Lockdown podcast, Doug Kezirian, joined by Jeff Goodman and Amin Elhassan. Eastern Conference Finals get going tonight. Cavs about 2-1 favorites, even though Atlanta has the home court advantage. Guys, Kevin Love obviously out for this one. Hawks won 3 of the 4 regular season meetings, but you can't put too much stock in that. LeBron missed a game. Carroll missed a game. Scheduling issues. Hawks had 3 days off between games when they played Cleveland one at a time. So I kind of throw that out the window. But my biggest concern for Cleveland going into this one is their defense. I just see the Hawks getting open jumpers, open looks left and right.
Here's my rebuttal. Is if this were Atlanta in February or early March, I would say yes. Their offense was just too much for Cleveland to handle. It's just too much. And while the Cavs defense has improved tremendously, they are still, I like to call it a primary rotation defense. Meaning, I'm guarding somebody, something happens, I get help defense to come over, they're good at that. As soon as the ball then moves somewhere else where there is a secondary or a tertiary rotation required, the Cavs don't have it. They can't do it. They don't have the immense concentration, the attention to detail of a high-level defense to defend deeper into the progressions. If we're talking about, NFL, a quarterback, you make your reads, and then you might throw to the fourth read. The Cavs can't defend that fourth read. They can guard the first one and maybe the second one, and then after that it kind of tapers off. But, and this is a huge but, that Hawks team, we haven't seen them. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's just the playoffs or whatever. No, if you look from about mid-March, rest of March, all of April, the first round and the second round, we haven't seen that Hawks offense. We've seen glimpses here and there. But we haven't seen that Hawks offense beginning to end like we did for most of the beginning of the year. And because of that, I just don't think they're going to it's going to happen. And I feel bad because I don't want to be one of these Neanderthals who says, because they don't have one player who's the man. But it goes beyond that. I just think the offense, if we're talking about what makes them special, they haven't been special in quite some time. And we're just kind of giving them a pass for much of the last 8 to 12 weeks.
I think I remember back in, I don't know, it was probably January, and we were talking about this. We were talking about the Hawks, and I think Cleveland at that point was, I don't know, they might have been 6th overall, and the Hawks were on that tear where I can't remember how many they won in a row, but it was some ridiculous number.
I think 17.
Yeah, and I just remember saying, I'm not going to trust the Hawks. I'm gonna stick with Cleveland. They're gonna figure it out, and I'm not gonna trust the Hawks. Not that I don't like them, and I love Al Horford, but ultimately, I'm not putting my money on the Hawks when these two teams meet in the playoffs, just because, Cleveland's got the better players. They've got LeBron. I know they don't have Kevin Love now, and it should be, when you talked about the odds, it's a little surprising if you had told me that, Atlanta's got the home court, no Kevin Love, and yet Kyrie's banged up, and still they're this heavy a favorite. But I would still, if I was a betting man, put my money on Cleveland, because Cleveland's not going to lose this series. They'll probably get home court advantage here right away, I think right out of the gates. And Kyrie, I talked to him a little bit after Game 6, and he wasn't that down. I don't think the injury was as serious as people think. I think it was almost as much precautionary at that point, understanding that they had built the time he got hurt, it was close. Then they pulled away. By the time he came back out of the locker room, I think they were up 15 or so. And why are you going to risk him when you can give them all this time off to try to get as close to, 85 or 90% as possible. So I think Cleveland got the rest they needed. I don't think they're as bad defensively as some people are saying. I think it depends what unit they have out there. If you've got LeBron, Tristan, Shumpert, you got a unit that can guard a little bit. Dellavedova probably gets more credit defensively than he deserves. He plays hard. He's not a very – I still don't think he's a great defensive player. I think he plays with effort every single play, and that makes up sometimes for his lack of athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff, I agree with you. The whole Kyrie thing, people kind of forgot that even on that at the moment, they said he's out for now, but he can return. And it just so happened, like you said, the rest of the game, they just didn't need him, so he didn't return. It wasn't like I'm out for the rest of the game. So that's a great point to make there. And I think Dellavedova plays hard and he plays well within a team concept. But, again, my thing is just those guys are all good individual defenders. Yeah. And they're good help defenders if it's the first help, but anything beyond that, and that goes beyond having good defensive players individually. It goes to having a system and having guys stick to the system, having the discipline to do that. And I think that's where Cleveland is a little lacking, but I don't think it'll matter.
You guys got Cleveland?
I got. You want to hear my scalding hot take?
Yeah.
I have Cleveland in 5.
Ooh.
I used to live in Atlanta. I got a buddy of mine, a college buddy of mine. He called me last night. He says, "Hey, man, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is killing." I said, "What happened?" He said, "They're just talking about like what all the pundits are saying in the series." And then they singled me out because apparently I was the only one who went Cavs in 5. So they singled me out and like just absolutely tore me a new one. And I've got friends down in Atlanta who are calling me a turncoat and a traitor. I was on the radio yesterday with Rick Mahorn. Rick Mahorn was an assistant coach in Atlanta when I used to work for the Hawks. And we were just reminiscing about, you used to count how many people are in the stands before the game, and now the game's all packed. But
that's bold. That means they win 2 of 3 in Atlanta, and Cleveland wins both games. I think if Cavs win, it's at least in 6. And I don't blame you guys. It's hard to pick against LeBron because we've seen him do it so many times. 3 times in his career, he has faced the 1 seed in a postseason series and won all 3 as the underdog. So I have no problem. And frankly, it's this Atlanta team, like you said. I mean, what were they, 500 the last 20 games or so of the regular season? I just come back to the coaching mismatch is Atlanta's favor. No Kevin Love. And just because we haven't seen a team like Atlanta get it done doesn't mean they can't. I'll go Cavs in 7, but I don't think this is one-sided. I will not be shocked if the Hawks win this thing.
I think it's Cavs in 6. I go Cavs in 6, and the key to this series to me is Jeff Teague. How he plays on a big stage. Does he try to do too much? Does he move the basketball and continue to rather than trying to play any hero ball? If he does that, I think they have a chance. But, again, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, listen, if Cleveland wins in 5, I would not be shocked at all. I think it ends up going 6.
If the Hawks win, I'm not going to be shocked. But the Hawks aren't going to win playing, I would say, a conventional style of basketball. They're not going to win with Jeff Teague or Dennis Schroeder ISOing and everybody else kind of just waiting to see what happens. They're going to win playing the way they played in the regular season. And so if they start playing that way, I got no problem saying, okay, I was wrong. Hawks are going to win. But I just don't see that happening. And I see them doing exactly what I just said. I see Jeff Teague trying to be a hero, especially if Kyrie isn't 100% or if he's not even on the floor. I definitely see Jeff Teague putting the blinders on. And I don't think that takes the Hawks from being special to being just like everybody else. It's almost the opposite of, remember when people say Iverson needs to stop shooting so many times, and I said, well, that's what makes him special. If you ask him to play like a regular point guard, you've taken what makes him special and you've made him just into a regular point guard. And this is the opposite. If you tell the Hawks, hey, you guys need to shoot more and just take advantage of the mismatches and forget about all this passing and ball movement stuff, well, you're just taking what's special about them and made them just a regular offense.
All right, Game 1 gets going tonight. We'll continue the discussion on the NBA tomorrow. This is the we have a couple minutes, guys. Your take. I did NBA Tonight last night. Brian Windhorst ruffled some feathers saying he did not like Riley Curry on the podium with Steph Curry because it disrupts the mindset of the players that everyone's trying to get quotes from. He laughed about it. He's like, look, I know I'm the cute police, and I know the Scrooge here, and obviously Riley Curry's very cute, but he's like, look, we're trying to get quotes. We're trying to meet deadline.
Does Windhorst have kids? Does Windhorst have kids?
He does not. He does not.
I don't know.
There you go. There's the answer.
But
okay.
he was saying, Curry couldn't get a normal quote out because he was, his daughter was stealing the spotlight.
Can I comment on this one? Can I comment on
Go
this
ahead.
one real quick? As a reporter, a guy who's been a reporter forever, you don't get anything good, worthwhile at the press conference after the game. If you want anything good, you got to go in the locker room. You got to hang around. You got to try to get guys one-on-one if you can, especially when you're not in a major deadline. I love Windhorst. He's the best. But you're not in a major deadline to have to write right away. Hang around. Get what you can. You can get – usually they print out something anyway, a quote sheet. So you don't need to be in there getting something from Steph Curry unless there's some question you have to ask. And if you ask that question, whatever he's saying, if it's that good, everybody's got it anyway. Everybody's using it. So I love Steph Curry's daughter. I'm all for it. Bring your kids up there. The more the merrier. Make it entertaining. Have fun. Enjoy it.
Oh,
Brad
man.
Doherty had the best line. He goes, you all ask the same questions anyway.
That's right.
Oh,
no, it's always, tell me about the fourth quarter. Tell me about that play.
And that's what I said. I said,
man.
who says there are even questions? A lot of times there's statements.
Exactly.
I'm conflicted because here's the funny thing. I'm looking at Steph and I'm actually impressed by his ability to answer questions because I've done radio interviews with my kid when she was that age with me, and it is impossible for me to focus. Like I'll be stuttering. It throws me completely off. And for him to be able to give pretty legible answers. I mean, yeah, he was interrupted a couple of times and say, baby, no, okay, daddy's talking right now, or whatever. The answers he gave were still like usable answers. They're just broken up. I've given absolute BS on the radio. I'm here to say it. I admit it. I start rambling and talking about other things because I lose my train of thought because I'm making sure my kid isn't going to set the house on fire. My kid isn't going to stick something into electrical socket. And I get it. And so, on the one hand, I admire Steph's ability to do that. On the other hand, I know it must be annoying for people. The kid's cute, but I see what Brian is saying. And I've had times where I tell my wife, like, look, you have to grab her and you guys have to lock the door and stay in the bedroom. And I will go downstairs somewhere else to have this conversation because otherwise it just it's not going to work out. And
who started this? Do we know who started
to bring in the kid?
To bring up your kid?
He brought up a good point. He goes, about 15 years ago when Jason Kidd had his son, the NBA actually banned it. The NBA didn't allow it. They said you can't do that anymore. And then I think a few years later, and I think I want to say Chris Paul with his
someone before Chris Paul. It was someone before Chris Paul.
Yeah, because Kobe used to bring his daughter sometimes.
And Kobe,
right?
Kobe would bring his daughter. Yeah, with one or both. Someone else. I'm trying to think who else. It was someone who had a really quiet kid. I remember that. I can't.
But
remember.
It was funny when I guess the NBA
quiet.
did start banning him.
You know what's funny? So I saw a tweet yesterday. It was Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones tweeted. Here, let me pull it up right here on my phone because this one made me. This is why I love the internet. So Bomani Jones tweeted, "I'll tell you this though, little Chris wouldn't be doing all this. Chris Paul would have shut that all the way down." And someone responded to Bomani and said, "That's not the punchline. The punchline is the response." Someone said, "Little Chris's dad has never been to a conference finals before either, though."
Hate hard.
Kermit the Frog with the sipping the tea. That's awesome right there. This is why I love the internet.
I see both sides to it, but someone should also mention, and someone did, and it's worth mentioning, this was the earliest a Warriors game has been all season. So they had more time post-game because it started at 9 and not 10:30, 10:40.
Well, here's the other part of this. By the way, it's it's a one-time thing. Let's not get out of hand, right? Like it happened, and the whole thing is like you can't. I mean, it is annoying. That's the thing. No, it's not. It's not kosher to say it out loud. It is kind of annoying at some point. It's cute at first, and then it gets annoying at some point. And it's not kosher to say that out loud because then you must hate children. But that's true. But at the same time, it's a one-time occurrence. I don't think she's going to be back every single press conference.
But how about this? How about this now? Doesn't every player's wife now, when they go up on the podium, say, hey, they brought up their kid, Steph brought up his daughter. You got to bring up your kid now. Like there's pressure on these players. They got to bring up their kid.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm excited.
And
I'm excited moving forward.
She gets to hang out for a little bit longer in the back without the kid. Without the kid, that's the other
right.
part of it.
That's right, exactly.
So you're not doing anything. You're sitting still anyway.
It's free babysitting.
All right, fellas. Good podcast. Appreciate the time. We'll continue the Knicks discussion another time. We'll see how the draft lottery unfolds. Jeff, we're looking forward to seeing your mock draft. And exciting times in Lakerland, I'll tell you that much. And obviously, exciting times in the Bay Area as well. For Jeff Goodman, Amin Elhassan, I'm Doug Kezirian. NBA Lockdown podcast continues tomorrow on Thursday.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNRadio.com. Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8. Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.